Hi from California. My name's Tiffany Jameson, and I am here to talk to you about grit and flow. But more importantly, I'm here to introduce you to the NDGiFTS movement and let you know about some of the amazing work we've done globally to further the neurodiversity movement. Just wanted to give you a little idea of grit and flow. And the reason I'm doing this is because what we're doing through the NDGiFTS is providing systemic change. And to do systemic change, we're going to need to look at the overall processes that all come into play. And this happens through looking at inclusion, not so much looking at diversity. So we all know that neurodiversity is just another form of diversity called cognitive diversity, and that needs to be included in the organizations. We feel that it's important at Grit and Flow that the organization includes neurodiversity as part of its efforts for diversity and inclusion. But more importantly, we feel it's important that they support the overall well-being of people so they don't have to diagnose nor be a member of a group to give it the support they need to be a successful member of the team and the company. So the reason we bring this up is because, we talked a little bit about systemic change, but there are a lot of people that can make a change in this process. First, what is systemic change? Well, it's about sustainable and scalable impacts, and it's owned by actors and wide and large in scope. And that's what this is. This conference, NDGiFTS, it's a wide, it's scalable, and it's sustainable because we all want it to be. So the first thing that we need to think about is how do we deconstruct the model of disability? There's a lot of academics here, so we all know the models of disability have come and gone, and now we're kind of more into the social model or an empowerment model, which is great, but we need to really think more about the way the typical person views people being different. They view it as a disability. So it's pretty much that you look at glasses, and when they think of disability, they see a mess. They see landfalls. They see just things in the way. And instead of seeing what we really should see, which is this beautiful background, this beautiful path. So we need to deconstruct this. We need to let people know that it's not a disability. It's not a model of disability. It's just differences in people. So how do we begin doing this? Now, we believe it's important to look at the university and professional certifications of the curriculum. So this isn't anything we're doing to the people that are neurodivergent. This is something we're doing to our society. So to be a more supportive and inclusive person, you need to be taught that throughout your education. So I'm calling for universities to change the language and to be inclusive for all abilities within all their curriculum. I'm also calling that we include unconscious bias and microaggression training within undergraduate and graduate work and within professional certifications. We need to have human resources and organizational psychology's foundations, and this is in the undergrad and the graduate programs. They need to have more discussion about disability, neurodiversities, inclusion. They need to understand what it is to have accommodations and adjustments within the workplace and to have supported employment models. Mental health needs to be addressed on all levels of business schools. It needs to be not an afterthought. It needs to be part of the core curriculum. We need to understand that people's mental health and their well-being is so important. It's not an afterthought. It's not an extra program. It needs to be a foundation of how a company is run. And so our future leaders need to be educated in this. But also, we need to have a way to teach people to self-advocate by learning to say, I work best when. So if we're teaching everybody to say, I work best when, and that's individuals in business schools and individuals who are coming out of potentially special programs. If we're all asking how you work best and telling people I work best when, it doesn't become odd. It just becomes the way it is. And then we need to encourage that we have upfront conversations with our students to allow to have that conversation about how you identify, how you can be assisted in the workplace. We need to break down some of those barriers and make sure we understand the diverse needs of our coworkers in every way they come. So the supply side we look at is the actual kind of students, getting the students ready, the people who are neurodivergent, the people who do identify as being disabled, but having them learn from preschool all the way up how they work best. So when they're able to say, I work best when, because they've been empowered and they've learned about that, and they've been given the language to do that throughout their educational experience. But now we get into the bridge. Now the bridge is the job developers, the vocational counselors. It's also the universities. These are the people that are doing the transition from the, elementary, high school, school age children all the way into the college. So that bridge is just such an important piece. So what that bridge needs to do is change their language to saying, let's learn to communicate how you work best. So once again, it's that self-advocacy and that ability to say, I will be your best employee. So the part of the bridge is to really help teach the individuals you work with how to communicate how they work best. And then we have the demand side. These are the employers. A lot of what I talked about with the changes to business schools curriculum will help, but every business should ask an incoming employer, how do you work best? How do you learn best? And that way, we're empowering them to tell us how they're going to provide the maximum amount of value and have a high score of well-being in the workplace. And lastly, and I think this conference is a great indication, multidisciplinary research is needed. So we need to have a lot to do, everybody. So let's talk about how we can do this through a global movement. Let's meet NDGiFTS. So NDGiFTS movement has a very interesting story, and it all started with an Irish man named Ronan McGovern, who is a Stanford Business School graduate. So he was asked to participate in this COVID-based innovative product program in the business school called Stanford Rebuild. And Ronan decided to take a few weeks off of his banking job and build a team and figure out something related to neurodiversity that was innovative. So he went through and talked to hundreds of people. Eventually we met and I became one of his co-captains, I guess you could say. And together with Susan O'Malley, we created the NDGiFTS movement. So the way it went from being a product for the Stanford Rebuild is very interesting. How do you make a product, I guess we asked, how do you make a product out of neurodiversity? And you really can't. But what we decided, there was a lot of things that needed to be said, and we felt that we needed to bring together the world to say them. So we created the NDGiFTS paper, and it's an internationally authored and officially endorsed paper by Bank of America and AIB Bank that provides many different viewpoints of neurodiversity and topics that are important for neurodiversity at work. And where are we going? Well, now we have an international movement and we've grown immensely, and it's pretty exciting to see, but we're going to keep moving as we go. So once again, our founders, Ronan, myself, and Susan, created this movement, but really that just got us started. So when we first released the paper in June 2020-ish, maybe we started in August, around that time, you could see here we were definitely geographically dispersed throughout the world. And all these teams, it was great. We had teams that were working from North America, Europe, all coming together to create some of this wonderful content. Hopefully you'll read in the NDGiFTS paper, which is the most amazing thing, is that these people never knew each other before. They simply said, I want to be involved. I want to write about this topic. It's important to me. And we were able to put these groups together, and man, they made magic, as you'll see when you read the paper. But more importantly, this group was able to come together and have those hard conversations about the topics. You know, we talked about race, we talked about sexual orientation, we talked about the diversity and inclusion efforts. We had all those hard conversations, and we were able to put all those inputs from the global perspective, and people, 50% of our group was neurodivergent, into the paper we wrote. So now I'd like to tell you about this paper that I've been bragging about, because I'm really excited about it. I was lucky enough to be both an author and an editor for the paper. So we broke it down into 3 sections. One is the case for investing in neurodiversity. We have the voices of the community. where we really highlight, the voices of the neurodiverse community. And we talk about some research proposals, research that needs to be done to really make a difference, to prove how we can change the environment and really allow individuals that are neurodivergent to embrace all their great gifts, therefore the NDGiFTS. So the first part for this case for investing. So we talk about the business case here. So if you're trying to get an effort started, we pretty much did the work for you. So you can go ahead and take this out of there, take it to your business and say, this is the business case. And another thing we did is we had an area written on unaddressed, non-visible, and the huge opportunity of this talent. We talked about some of the challenges, such as not visible, identity and disclosure. We got into the meat and potatoes of the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how right now those programs do not include neurodiversity in any way. We have a federal right hiring discussion. We have internships and tryouts where we talk about the benefits of these programs and how they really allow you to explore the talent of neurodiverse workers. We talk about impact on social, economic, and cultural diversity. And lastly, we talk about the public perceptions of autism, which you'll find more through TV shows. And this was just the first section, the case for investing. So if you need to go to your business and you want to get things started, this first section of NDGiFTS is everything you need to get going. But the next section is even more important in my opinion, because it's about the community. So we have all these different articles that were written from the individuals who are neurodivergent. So I think it's important, though, when we're trying to make an effort, that we make sure we have the voices of the community with us. And that was, imperative in everything we did with NDGiFTS. It has to be reflective of the population we're trying to serve. So we had a few authors in this, and they did a great job on writing these pieces. And I highly suggest you read these to get a better feel for their experiences. Especially if you want to champion an effort at your university or at your employment, you'll really learn a lot about the challenges and the barriers and enablers that go on and some ways you can combat these and make the environment better for a neurodiverse worker. The last section was our research. So of course, with any good research proposal, we did some background. So we talked about what is neurodiversity. We discussed how neurodiversity looks right now with education. Anxiety is a comorbidity, which we realized there's quite a bit of overlap between some of the main neurodiversities into anxiety, and also the same with executive functioning. So what we learned during this is that when people are doing some brain imaging, they were able to look at minds that were higher in anxiety and lower in executive functioning, and parts of the creative mind were being highlighted more through the neuroscans. So that kind of sparked us to say, wow, is that really meaning that we can maybe prove that people who are neurodivergent, who are cognitively diverse, have greater access to parts of their brain? And so that led to creativity, the core of this project. So we talk about creativity and how it can be harnessed by being in the right contextual environment. So this is your team, this is your physical environment, this is having access to be yourself, to allow yourself to find those creative areas of your brain, to not be yourself, to take off the masking, to take off these pretending to be another identity, and to bring your whole self to work, and to have people listen to who you are and your opinions and process it and know that you're coming at it, whatever it may be for that work project, from a different angle. And that's a good thing. And it's going to increase the innovation for an organization. We proposed studies. We've proposed both a qualitative and a quantitative study. And then we encourage some neuroscience to go into that to prove some of our areas. So we're looking hopefully to implement a lot of this research. So if someone's interested, give us a contact, any of us from the NDGiFTS, and we can give you access to all the individuals that wrote pieces of this and talk about how we can help you implement our vision on these projects. So what's next? We have this great paper. What do we do? Well, first we grow. We have created a website, ndgiftsmovement.com, and a LinkedIn group. Our LinkedIn group has over 600 people, and hopefully after today and speaking with you, we'll have a whole lot more than that. But we have diverse, and we are all over the world. And there's some great conversations happening of sharing resources, sharing challenges, and just trying to move the movement to a new level, looking at both regional challenges and the overall dynamics of what we need to change globally. So to do that and to really be able to benefit the local efforts and include everybody with all the different time zones we have throughout the world, we've broken into 3 different regions. Now these regions, we're all still operating as one NDGiFTS, but we're having these smaller meetings to allow people to, 1, get more engaged with people in their area, 2, set better objectives just for their groups, but 3, just provide an easier way for people to be involved. So I'm excited to announce our new leadership team. So our European region leaders are Sonia Allison Penny, Michael Kahn. Our Asia Pacific region leaders are Lutza Ireland and Elise Koo. And our North American region leaders are Peter Shea and Antonio Plazovic. I think I do it too good. So we are breaking down the barriers. Europe's already on their 2nd meeting. By the time of this conference, they should be about on their 3rd. Asia Pacific is getting their priority set up and their meeting schedule. And North America is just trying to get a better definition for how often people want to meet. So if you go to our website, you can go ahead and connect with these individuals for these different regions and find more of what's going on. But I couldn't do justice if I didn't give you an opportunity to learn more about the European region, especially since this is in Ireland. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to them and let you enjoy this video.
So Michael and I are delighted to share with you a little bit more about the European chapter of the NDGiFTS movement. Just a little introduction to who we are at the beginning. So my name is Sonia Allison Penny. I've been interested in autism since I was about 15 years old because I have first experience in my direct immediate family of autism, and that led to me then volunteering with children because I wanted to support parents as they go on the journey to get to know their very unique child. So I've had quite a bit of practical experience. I've also been educated at the University of Birmingham, and that obviously led me to then get interested in the NDGiFTS movement. And having left a corporate career behind 2 years ago and now set up my own consulting company based out of France, I'm also setting up a holiday home for autistic children. So I have quite a blended interest in terms of a typical corporate career, but also a very strong interest now in broader neurodiversity. And through the NDGiFTS movement, it's helping me to more fully understand some of the comorbid conditions such as dyslexia, ADHD, dyspraxia. So I'll hand over to Michael and he'll give you a bit of an introduction into what his interests are.
Yes, I'm Michael Kuhn, and I'm here located in Munich, in Germany. Actually, I got into the topic due to a executive education program which I attended in Stanford last year. And there, the topic corporate culture and especially the positive impacts diversity has on decision making really caught my attention. I was then afterwards in a loose exchange with 2 Stanford professors on the topic diversity and also on how different ways of thinking are positively impacting diversity in companies. And furthermore, I have in my family ADHD. So by coincidence, I was then connected to Ronan, who was, or he's co-heading the NDGiFTS movement on a global basis. And so it was a perfect match on the one hand for me to learn and to contribute as well. And that's why we are here today, and we are happy to present here in the Dublin meeting.
Thanks, Michael. So following on from the Stanford Innovation Summit, which is where Michael and Ronan got to know each other, and I got to know Ronan and Tiffany, and therefore Michael, because I co-authored on the diversity and inclusion chapter and the state of neurodiversity and diversity and inclusion from a corporate perspective, which was a phenomenal period of time. We saw the energy, and we wanted to maintain that momentum. And then when Tiffany and Ronan suggested that it was actually becoming too big for them to handle, and could we maybe set up regional areas, Michael and I stepped forward to say that we were happy to at least get it started. And what I'm really appreciative of is that we've all agreed from the global leadership team perspective that we'll have a set period of time so that we can always get fresh energy, new ideas, and we can hand the baton over to new people when they put their names forward to head up whichever chapter it's going to be, Asia or America or Europe. So it got off to a good start, and I'd like to share with you what our first European chapter kickoff meeting told us. So we thought it would be a good idea to actually ask the participants, what is it that you're interested in? So if Michael and I are going to be pulling together topics and a calendar of events, what would you be most interested in diving into? Now, it's a bit small because it's a mirror mind map, apologies, but we had dyspraxia as an option, we have dyslexia as an option, neurodiversity overall, autism, ADHD, and here you can see everything that was red was ADHD. So we had this surprising result that we found out that actually the biggest area of interest for our audience at the moment is ADHD, with lots of sub-elements that were coming out of it. So that's given us a fantastic roadmap. And Michael will tell you what we're going through next. A new topic that came up, which was intersectionality. I imagine, not surprising that it actually did come up. So that will also be a topic that we focus on in the future. So I'll hand over to you, Michael, to talk through what our next steps are going to be.
Thank you, Sonia. Yes, actually here you can see our calendar of events, and what we are planning for the European chapter is to conduct monthly meetings focusing always on special topics, and according to the prioritization from the initial meeting, like Sonia just explained, the first meeting will be on HDHD. We always intend to invite one expert on the topic and to introduce questions from the community out of our LinkedIn group, and also from the active members of the European network. Those topics on which we would like to focus, one was just mentioned by Sonia, it's intersectionality. Then topics like gender presentation in autism, poverty and neurodiversity, aging, then the physical working environment like architecture, focusing on neurodiversity. The linguistic barriers are a very important topic where also we constantly learning, like the labeling, whether we call it neurodiversity versus cognitive diversity, and academic accommodations, how to support a neurodiverse workforce in the workplace. Those are the fields, and therefore should not limited. We are open to collect further. And we are also happy to introduce and discuss those further topics which will arise out of our continuous discussions in our general agenda. That's basically our schedule. We are always happy if you would get in touch with us. We are an open community. You can be contacted via our emails, which you can see on the lower right-hand side of this slide. And in case of any questions, or in case if you want to be participating or joining our European section, we are very happy to introduce you, and we will also give you a platform to introduce yourself to our European community. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Very exciting that they've been able to make that. So we also want to talk about what's coming up next. And I'm so excited about this because right now in our LinkedIn group, the ideas are flowing. So besides breaking into the regions, we're working on NDGiFTS Volume 2, and we're recruiting teams now. So I believe we're going to work similar to how we worked last time, but this time it's going to be even bigger and better, and maybe have a more of a release schedule going on instead of just one big volume. We have a lot of people with a lot of passion for topics such as neurodiverse in academia, education at all levels, mental health, the intersectionality, a lot of things that were brought up by Sonia and Mike. But we also have, a lot of new ideas that are coming in that maybe we hadn't thought of before, such as what are reasonable accommodations? How can we make our environments better for neurodivergent workers? And all these things are just coming in right now. So I would highly encourage you to get involved with NDGiFTS. There are two ways to get involved. One, you can go to our ndgiftsmovement.com website and subscribe to our site. You can also go under regions and go ahead and contact one of the regions if you'd like to do that also. I would recommend actually doing both. There's also a link to get to our LinkedIn group. So LinkedIn is our main way of communicating. So if you go in our LinkedIn group, you'll be admitted, of course. And at that point, we use this to communicate what's going on in NDGiFTS, but also to share information with each other, but to ask for input on any challenges we're having and find experts in the area. It's a referral network, it's a friendly network, and it's a community. And it's comprised of people that are passionate about neurodiversity. And thank the heavens, there's a ton of people who are neurodivergent that are speaking up and teaching a lot of us about their world and how we can make it better. So please get involved. We'd love for you to be a part of this global movement called NDGiFTS. Visit us at ndgiftsmovement.com. I'm Tiffany Jameson. I am signing off from California, and I will see you guys on LinkedIn. All the best.